not showing. It normally doesn't show on the preview. It's not showing. See, we got to be able to test this before we do it. You use it. It's in there now, but you couldn't open the box up until that was on there. But see, it's just. Can you refresh it? Undo this.
Yeah, let's try.
Now, if I stop streaming, it's.
New stream key. I mean, a new link.
Is it up?
You're fine. Let's pick it.
I have two special recognitions for the month of February. The first one is February is historically and annually School Board Appreciation Month, and we certainly appreciate our staff members for all the hard work that they do. I'm going to read the certificates of recognition from our government. By virtue of the authority vested by the Constitution of Virginia and the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, this is hereby officially recognized. Virginia School Board Appreciation Month. Whereas education of Virginia school-age children is the foundation upon which the economic, social, and intellectual strength of our Commonwealth is built, and locally elected and locally appointed school board members play an important and vital role in our representative democracy. As the decisions of the local school boards directly influence instruction in Virginia's public schools. And whereas the leadership of our school boards affects the development and future of our children and ensure that students are prepared to compete in local, state, national, and global economies. And whereas local school boards devote themselves to providing a high-quality education for all students in the Commonwealth. And this year's theme, 115 years of providing leadership, advocacy, and support, reflects the partnership of the Virginia School Boards Association with local school board members as they serve their local divisions and advocate for professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And the Commonwealth of Virginia is proud of our education system and appreciates the efforts of local school board members to make the Virginia public school system an excellent place in which to educate our youth. And School Board Appreciation Month recognizes school board members for their leadership and support of a public school system from which the entire Commonwealth benefits. And now, therefore, I, Ralph S. Norman, do hereby recognize February 2021 as School Board Appreciation Month in our Commonwealth of Virginia, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. So, we have a certificate for each one of you from the Virginia School Boards Association. It says in appreciation of your dedication and service to excellence in education on behalf of the students of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And it is signed by Janet Turner-Giles, President, and Gina Patterson, the Executive Director of the SBA. Now, I also have Mr. Robbie Barnes, who would like to say a few words, and I'll give you your certificates to recognize you as well on behalf of our principals.
Greetings, Madam Chair Pittman, all board members, Dr. Weston, Dr. Gurley, Board Clerk, Ms. Goldstein, Ms. Weaver, and Ms. Cole, and all assembled. We are honored to make this presentation today on behalf of all of the schools within the Dinwiddie County Public School District in celebration of Board Appreciation Month. If you are a Sunnyside Mustang, if you are a Dinwiddie Elementary School Eagle, if you are a Southside Elementary School B, if you are a Midway Elementary School Giant, if you are a Sutherland Elementary School Sky, at some point during the student's matriculation through this great school district, they will enter Dinwiddie Middle and Dinwiddie High School, and they will forever be a general. So, in this moment, we all join together collectively as Dinwiddie Generals to present to you, the board, a blanket that we hope will forever cover you and keep you warm, and a mask that shall shield you as you go forth and continue to serve our district and do great things. You are appreciated, and this is from all of the schools that could not be here today, the principals, but all the principals and students, administrative teams from all the schools would like to present these to you today with your names in written.
Oh, it's already in. Okay. Sorry.
I would like to say a few words on appreciation. It's always good to recognize or to receive something from somebody, but when you're recognized by your own, I mean, I appreciate everything that everybody else gives me, but to be recognized by our own is just so special and so very much appreciated. And it just goes to the deep of all of our hearts. I'm sure I can speak for all of us that are here. And we just thank you from the bottom of our heart. It's really special. I would never have enough words, and I love to talk. But to tell you thank you enough for what you're doing for us today. Thank you so much.
Yes, you could have used it last week, and I want to make this correction. Things have changed, and so much has been going on. To Chairman Benjamin, we present these blankets to you all and to the title board. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, but Ms. Pickman and I have become friends. So, we'll be okay. Thank you so much.
All right, I have one more recognition. month. And actually, it was for last week, but we were out, unfortunately, with the weather. But last week, the week of February 15th through 19th, was School Board Clerk Appreciation Week, so we need to honor Ms. Goldston. And so I also have another certificate and proclamation from Governor Northam. By virtue of the authority vested by the Constitution of Virginia and the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, there is hereby officially recognized School Board Clerk Appreciation Week. Whereas school board clerks throughout the Commonwealth are appointed to fulfill their duties and responsibilities, and the duties and the responsibilities of the school board clerk include keeping accurate records of the meetings and proceedings of the school board, records all receipts and disbursements, records of all official acts, and school board clerks perform other duties as required by the school board in connection with the school business of their locality. And school board clerks maintain frequent contact with the public, parents, school employees, and media on behalf of the school board and superintendent. And school board clerks, in the performance of their duties, often work extended hours, attending school board meetings and other related functions. And school board clerks work to ensure that students achieve their highest potential and provide an invaluable service for school board members and superintendents. And now, therefore, I, Ralph S. Northam, do hereby recognize February 15th through 19th, 2021, as School Board Clerk Appreciation Week in our Commonwealth of Virginia, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. So I also have a certificate in the appreciation of your dedication and hard work for public education through continued service to the students of the Commonwealth of Virginia. School Board Clerk Appreciation Week to Ms. Bonnie Wilson. Thank you. That's all that I have, but we have another recognition. We have Mr. Dudley, who is here. He has some recognition and awards for our VFW.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Dr. Weston, member of the board, for allowing me to come here today to recognize several one of your students, one of your teachers. This has been a hard year. Last year, been probably been rough to try to get participation into our program, but we were lucky to get a lot of participation and participation. So, Dr. Weston and Ms. Benjamin, y'all don't mind, y'all please come forward. I'd like for y'all to participate. Mrs. Bland and Gabriel, we all will come forward and stand front and share a voice. What I have for these two individuals is a certificate recognizing what they achieved from the post and a small monetary award. First of all, I'll recognize Mrs. Bland. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and read the citation on the certificate. I'll give them to Dr. Weston and Ms. Benjamin and give presentation to the individual. And your first is a National Citizenship Education Teacher Post Recognition Award. This is linked to the submission plan, Dinwiddie County Veterans Award Award, Post 12145, Dinwiddie County Elementary School, Board Master VFW National Citizenship Education Teacher of the Year, 2020-2021. Dr. Weston, to be honest. Enclosed in the presentation is an envelope that contains a monetary award, and also the pictures that you submitted. The next one is for the Board of Democracy Program. This is our scholarship program. The president here in the past, a lot of people don't start looking at scholarships until starting around January. Unfortunately, our scholarship runs from 1st of July to the end of June of the following year, and the scholarship application has to be in by 31st of October of that year. Now, it starts at the post, at the post level, postman goes to the district level, and from the district to the state level. Last year, we had an individual, Wilson Crowder, from Kingston Forest, that made it all the way to a national, program for Voices Democracy is present to Gabriel A. Walker, Senior County Veterans Born Award for 1.45 Voices Democracy winner for year 2020-2021. In recognition of excellence in the Voices of Democracy or essay program competition at the outstanding sport for freedom. Hopefully next year, all depends on, hopefully this coming year, we'll be able to do the same thing, but it also depends on COVID-19, how it plays it. Not only here in the state of Virginia that they have it, but all over. And it's kind of hard for us to get into the school for a long time. I could not get into the school until August of last year. By then, I'm away. But congratulations to our winners. And these are outstanding teachers and outstanding students. Just to let you know, we do have talented students and teachers within the school. Again, congratulations.
Everybody's saying the sound is terrible. But it's muffled and it's going in and out. I don't know. People keep texting.
Now we're down to our consent agenda.
Right, but it's just move that. I don't know. Or do you get here? Sources?
Well,
Turn it up.
Tim's gonna go downstairs and
Check it.
from his office.
here's the motion. The minutes of January 12th, 2021, and January 26th, 2021 be accepted. All those in favor? Please rise and vote. Aye. There are no nays, so minutes are accepted. Board matters, return to Dr. Weston. Thank you, Ms. Clark, Francisco.
All right, that's the name again. All right, so I want to just provide a quick update of where we are and just remind people of the things that we have available. As we are returning and, what our students and what our parents can look for, from the health services side. So let's go
Different.
on that.
Just
We have the slides, it looks like two little PowerPoint slides. It's the one on the right. So on our website, if you want to, if you can do like present, the little present button. Yeah, perfect. So these are some snapshots that we have started providing on Fridays, each Friday. We're updating this information based on the school metrics on the Virginia Department of Health side, and where we stand and how our community stands and the risk of children being in school and things like that. So we've done this for the last several weeks. When we started doing this, the children were on the virtual little pause that we had for a few weeks, And so we only have these two slides right now, this slide right here. These are those indicators that we have that shows it's based on the top two. You'll see where the stars are is how Dinwiddie is standing in this. So based on the number of new cases, much of Virginia is still in the same state that we're in. We're still in the highest risk as a community as a whole, and as well as the percentage of the PCR test over the last 14 days. Now, we are seeing a decline in the numbers, which is a great thing. Today, this is based on Friday's metrics, which is still hovering around the same. But today, when I looked before we came in, the positivity rate is down to 11.5%. So we were up to almost 20 about a month ago. So we've been steadily holding it. It's come down the last few weeks. That's a great sign. So down toward the bottom, the secondary indicators that we are tracking, these risks have to do with the number of new cases in the last 7 days. That has dramatically come down. So 20% less than where we were 7 days ago. So we've moved all the way to the lowest risk in that category. And then they also look at how many hospital beds and number of people that are occupied by COVID patients. So we're still in the moderate or lower risk for that. Now this bottom one is talking about, are there outbreaks in the area? So there was an outbreak, but it was not in a school setting. It was in an outside, another setting of how they track outbreaks. So an outbreak is defined as two cases that can be linked together as being, similar. And so there was one, but it was about a week and a half ago. So that still looks like there's an existence of one until the outbreak is deemed closed.
It wasn't turning
So that
house,
could
and
be,
maybe
so an outbreak could be tracked to be somewhere like, but it could be a school, it could be a nursing home, it could be like where Central State is, those type of facilities. That's what they're looking for in those outbreaks. So we will continue to update this data every Friday. And then if we go to the next slide, this is the one that's showing where we stand each week in the school division and the number of cases that we have. So the numbers look a little, we are down so we have 2.5, 2.12, and 2.19. We do this in a 3-week cycle. So at the end of this week, we will drop the 2.5 off and then pick up the newest week. So we did have a jump from February 5th to the 12th of 12 cases, and then the next week was only 4. Now, the other thing we have to keep in mind here is we have been closed. So we are working on the reports we have received. So when kids come back on Thursday, we'll have to just, the nurses will be on top of that when kids come in, and we'll be monitoring and look at where we stand. So hopefully, we're hoping that the numbers continue to track down as well. So where we were last Friday was 111. Where we stand today is 115. As of this moment in time is 115. So I can give you a quick breakdown of that. So based on the 115 cases to date, 62 of those are as the Central District, they have agreed there are no spectators for indoor sports.
Okay, so that will remain just like it was for basketball and wrestling when we had that previously. But what will be a little different is the outdoor. So Governor Northam did in the executive order expand outdoor sports to include 250 spectators. So we can go on the 250 number because the way it was stated was it could be 250 or a percentage of normal capacity, whichever's less. So for us, it would be 250 for a football setting like that. So they have met again as the Central District because that's who we're basically playing. So Central District met and all agreed upon the same guidelines for how that 250 spectators will be done. So when there is a home game, the home team will get 150 spectators. The away team gets 100. And the way so it's going to be whatever the rules they establish for that when it's time for that district competition. So that would be. Now, Mr. Atkins has also already distributed this plan. He has made it available on the Dinwiddie Athletics Facebook page. So this new plan is there. Today, I also added this as an additional appendix in our health mitigation plan. So it's at the very end for anyone who wants to see that. These games will be streamed on Facebook and on the YouTube. If you did not get an opportunity to watch any of the basketball games or wrestling, so the administrators did a great job. If they need a side job, they can do some good televising. I watched a few of those games, and they gave some good commentary and called the game there. So I thought it was very good quality from watching those as well. So that was some good entertainment. So while we want everyone to be there, we know at this point we have to stay within our guidelines, and to be able to do that was the streaming. Let me see if I have any more notes. So that takes care of fall. So then after fall, the next season that will come about is going to be mainly like the spring sports. That's going to happen. That doesn't start now until April. So that's when we will have baseball, soccer, softball, tennis, track and field, and that runs from April through June. So it's a little later this year. So depending on how things go, this is all under this executive order. And if you read this executive order, it states that it goes through the end of February. So typically, it would be extended, or a different order would come with some of the same information. So that's where we stand with sports. And Mr. Atkins has done a great job of putting that plan together for us and ensuring how that happens. So if you come to a game and you're a parent of a football player or a cheerleader. What'll happen is they will do pre-sale tickets, is what Mr. Atkins states. They will have pre-sale tickets, and he'll be getting more information to those teams and things. That when you come in the car, you will show your ticket and have your temperature taken, because there will be a temperature check when that happens. And so then they would come in, and they have to, one of the things inside of this order says that in the stands, you have to be 10 feet apart. Your family unit can be 10, so you can sit with your family, but then the next family has to be 10 feet apart for the social distancing measure is what they are requiring for this. Okay? All right. Okay.
I think that when you, I think in addition to Mr. Atkins and what he did with the athletic plan, I really do applaud the work that's happened that Christy's been leading on behalf of the health mitigation plan, because I think what we've shown since September that our schools and offices are safe. That when you think about 115 cases and we have 650 employees, we have about 4,200 kids, and none of those cases really have been connected to one another. They're about what's happened outside of school or outside of work. That really is a testament to having a really strong mitigation plan in place and having administrators and supervisors that are making certain that we're adhering to that every single day. And I really do applaud those efforts. And with that being said, I think we've proven that, you know, our schools and our offices are safe. And so I'm coming before you today to talk to you about Q3. You know, our elementary students have been in school for 4 days a week, and they've done a great job. In our schools, we're continuing to use our Wednesday as a place for us to day for us to support our students and teachers to telework. What I'm coming before you today is to ask that we move our secondary students to 4 days a week beginning March 15th. We had hoped to do that sooner, but with the weather, we pushed it back just a little bit so we can do the things we need to do to be adequately prepared. But we'd like to move the middle and high school students to 4 days a week, keeping the Wednesday as the day that the students would have opportunity to work, kind of office hours with teachers as they need. And then we would continue to keep the elementary students at the 4 day a week as well. And this would carry us through the end of the third quarter, which is April the 2nd. I did talk to Dr. Lane yesterday from the Department of Education, and he did inform us that we do not have to make up any of the time, that we do have enough time inside of our hours right now. We had been tracking 990 hours or 180 days. And back in August, they had approved a waiver that would allow us to do, I think, 620 hours at the elementary level and 700 and some at the middle school level, and we will far exceed those instructional hours. So we will not have to make up any of the time that we thought we were going to have to make up because of the weather. So that's really good news for us. So we're in a very good position moving forward. I think really when you talk about bringing kids to school, I really want to watch the secondary kids a little more closely, because they tend to be a little more social than elementary students that you can somewhat control a little bit. We have talked to the principals about, we do want 6 feet if we can maintain that. However, we are comfortable with the 3 feet. I will tell you that I participated today in a webinar with the American Association of Pediatrics, who presented us with some research about the distance. And what they showed us today is, as long as you're wearing the mask, that you can even be 1 foot away from somebody, as long as you both have a mask on, that the chance of contracting the virus is less than 0.5%, as long as you both have on a mask. And so it doesn't change whether you're 1 feet, 3 feet, or 6 feet. Of course, you want 6 feet or 10 feet, because that really is taking away all risk. But what I've asked the principals to do is to do 6 feet if you can do 6 feet, but we are comfortable with the 3 feet because we are wearing the mask and we're doing all the other things that are in our mitigation plan to keep kids safe. I did talk to Mr. Athey, and we are looking at the possibility of starting with the elementary students and maybe allowing some movement, as far as, instead of having meals delivered to students, allowing them to go to the cafeteria. So you're gonna start to see a lot of this start to ease up just a little bit as we see that we can tolerate it in our schools. The minute we start to see that, if we start to see the our outcome change, then of course we'd have to pull back on that somewhat. But I think with our athletic program, we've shown that we can be very safe. And with the students we've had in school, we've had 2,000 kids in school since September. And so I think we've shown that we're ready to move forward. We currently are serving 1,977 students still virtually. And I think that will continue through Q3. I think some parents will watch to see what happens as we bring more students into the mix, and we might see that I will come back to you later next month to talk to you about bringing you more kids back. But right now, we're able to honor all the parents who have asked for a request to return to school. So I'm asking for you to approve the plan as Christy presented, based on the athletic, as well as allowing us to bring back secondary students 4 days a week. We are going to be communicating to parents with the transportation that there is no way for us to be able to promise parents that we can do, because even right now, with one child per seat, it's not even 3 feet. So it's not even 3 feet. There's no way we can do 6 feet without just having a couple of kids on the bus. So what we're going to do with the transportation is to inform parents this is the situation on the bus. We certainly will provide transportation. We certainly will wear a mask, and we will put siblings together. However, that we cannot promise that we won't have 2 kids to the seat, that we might not be able to do the 3 feet distancing on the school bus. Most parents have opted to drive their kids to school. So that's the only place that I think that we won't be able to adhere to that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Any thoughts?
So we've added some people that have requested to return from virtual to face-to-face.
Yes. We've been able to honor everyone that's requested it. We're able to maintain class size that's reasonable. Where the biggest challenge that I foresee is really at the high school level. It is, if you walk through the school, you can see the teachers who are trying to balance the in-person with the
Virtual.
at-home. And I will tell you, it's very difficult. It's very challenging. It's challenging for the kids that are there, and it's challenging for the kids that are at home. And it's very challenging for the teachers trying to maintain both and keep interest in both. So I think, in a perfect world, and as we move forward, and as it does look like virtual learning will be with us for at least another year, that we'll have to think about doing it a little bit differently so that you could either be a virtual teacher or not a virtual teacher, because doing both is very difficult.
It is.
Yep.
And it has erased all the good work we've done over 15 years of getting those teachers out from behind the desk and up and down, because they have to stay where the camera is. And that's setting us back a few years.
Yeah, but I think they've done a really great job, and they have great tools at their disposal, but it is very challenging, it is hard. You have to stay in front of the camera. You're exactly
Right.
right.
Well, Dr. Weston, when it comes to the bus and the students on the bus, and I think you put forth a good example there, if they wear their mask.
Yeah.
So even if you have to put 2 together, they have to make sure, and the parents know that they must keep their mask on.
That's correct.
And if they can't bring them, at least they'll be able to get to school.
That's correct.
But they're gonna have to follow the rules.
That's right. And our young people have done a great job with that. I've heard of other school systems that said, I can't require kids to wear a mask. They're not going to wear them, but our kids are wearing masks. They self-correct, and they know what they need to do. We give them breaks when they can take breaks, and our kids have done a great job with the mask wearing.
And even the little elementary,
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone over there, Bill and I have gone over to the Sutherland, these little, even the Bright Star and, the little four-year-olds, they all come in, they've got their masks on, there's no problem with the mask, keeping them on. We've gone into the classrooms, the kids are wonderful. I mean, they keep their masks on, they're they don't mind. They adjust a whole lot better than we do.
They really do.
We don't give them the credit
Yeah,
that they deserve, I think.
that's very true.
So do we need a motion for that?
Yes, so we're asking you to approve the revisions to the health mitigation plan that includes the athletics, as well as allowing us to bring back the secondary students 4 days a week beginning March 15th.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the health mitigation plan and the athletic plan as adjusted by the committee and Dr. Weston.
I'll happily second.
You've heard the motion that we approve you said a mitigation plan is brought forth by Ms. Clark and Dr. Weston. All those in favor?
Aye.
There, I hear no nays, and it's approved.
So now that you've approved this, so the next step will be that we will go back in that plan and update it for when the secondary returns, because that's the biggest change. Because what we had in the plan stated they were on the A and B schedule.
Right.
So we will fix that based on when that starts.
Mhm.
So we have to update that, and then the consistency, we'll tweak that a little bit. So those are only really the major changes that'll have to happen. Okay?
Thank you. Was there more? That's it? Okay. Next is ARC's report, update meeting January the 14th. I attended that meeting. We are doing some of the similar things that we're doing here today. We expect to have our students back in school on the hybrid model, March 15th. The Dr. Auburn, who was the director at that time, hired new part-time custodian, and they're doing as much as they can to keep the place clean and to have it safe. And they also urged parents who are nurses or in health professions, if they want to come out to help to do some of the work or to inspect it, they were more than welcome to come to see what's going on there. We also are adding a new course called Stagecraft 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're going to learn how to do this on the stage, what they do. So it's a good program going on there. But as you have heard, our director is leaving. He's going to the state. So we have an interim who's going to start on March 1st. And sometimes after that, a committee is searching for a replacement. So we don't know who that will be, but prayerfully they can continue the programs that are going on there, because they're really following the mission of the governor's school there. And that ends my report. Hopefully next month we will be opened.
Who will be the interim?
I can't pronounce her name, don't know what it is right now, but she's a retired assistant superintendent from Colonia Heights.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, Ms. Pittman, are you next?
Yes, Mr. Sniff and I represent Dinwiddie on the Rwanti board, and this month we did the board reorganization, which is typical for each year. And Rwanti has been going to school face-to-face. There are some kids who are virtual with Rwanti, but they've been following the Prince George calendar. So they have been in school face-to-face probably more than our standard students have. We are looking long-term as far as what the offerings and how to add to that curriculum down there. Rwanti had looked at some logistics courses, but both Prince George and Dinwiddie had already expressed an interest in adding logistics to our homeschools courses. So we were urging the principal, Cheryl Simmers, to look at plumbing or HVAC, because that's where the job needs are, and usually we follow a plan of looking at where the jobs are in the community and in the state, and try to get your training in those areas. So it hasn't been determined which way we're going with that, but we're looking for ways to do that, to expand the number of slots that we have at Rwanti. And they are going forward with the testing, the NACTI testing, and the certifications, because they're able to do those virtually. So therefore, we are making plans to expand, and of course, that's a board decision and a cost decision as well. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Ms. Haney, Code RVA?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, our meeting for Code RVA was held on January 21st at 11 o'clock virtually. We also had a reorganization of our board, and the Code RVA students will return to the hybrid model on March 15th. Right now, they're all still virtual. the students, it was quite interesting. They made a little video for the School Board Appreciation Month, and they had about 12 students, 9th grade, 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders from all the different areas, all the different counties and parts that are going to the Code RVA school. And they were telling us what they liked about Code RVA, how they appreciated the board. And one of our little students, Brad, let's see, where is his name? Brennan Chapman. He's a 10th grader. He's one of our students, and he goes there. And he was also in the little video, and he thanked the board. And then he said he really enjoyed the fact that it was such a small school, and it felt like family because everybody knew everybody. And I think everybody seemed to think that the school was, the staff was nice, the kids seemed to get along well. So it was a very nice little video that they put on for us. I'm looking forward to eventually being able to go to the school and seeing it and getting a tour of it and meeting some of the students and staff. And our next meeting is going to be on April the 15th. Any questions?
I would just like to say, Ms. Benjamin, that just for the record, that at Rwanti, Mrs. Pittman is serving as the chair currently with the Rwanti board, and you also, Ms. Benjamin, serve on the executive committee for ARG, so I think we're pretty well represented on all of our boards. So.
Dinwiddie is everywhere.
You're everywhere.
And we are serving in leadership positions, so
right.
that says a lot about Dinwiddie, doesn't it? We are Dinwiddie strong. That says a lot. So, but we enjoy serving, though. That's why we do what we do. And Mrs. Haney, thank you for your report, because I believe it's Code RVA where they say when students graduate there, if they can master the program, they can really make a good living financially. So that's good, and I'm glad to hear that you saw one of our students in the video.
I
So
was
that's
really
good.
surprised.
That's always good. There's Dinwiddie again.
That's right.
Yes, that's good. So now we have budget presentation. Dr. Weston.
Here we go. I think that's a really great segue, your comments, Ms. Benjamin, to Ms. Haney, because when we talk about the Dinwiddie difference and what we do here in Dinwiddie County, it's not just about educating our young people for this moment in time, it's educating them for a lifetime. We always say that what's most important here is about what happens the day after they graduate. Where do they go? What do they do? And do they have all the options that they want to be afforded to them? Tonight, what you're going to hear, my proposed budget is you're going to hear the things that we need in order to keep moving us in that direction. As with anything, I just want to remind us, and I want us to start by taking a look at our why. Thank you, principals, for sending these photographs of our students. And, I think that as we were choosing the photographs for this year, it was one of the first years that it was hard to find photographs of the actual whole face because we've been in mass for so very long. But I just wanted to capture some of the really smart work that's happening in our schools that sometimes it's not about a textbook. If you see there's some elementary students there that are actually put together, they put together an operating room. You see they're dressed in they're dressed like doctors and surgeons, and they're actually conducting a operation on the patient there that's in orange. That's some of the smart work that we're doing here in Dinwiddie County. As you're building a budget, sometimes people go, well, why does that even matter? Why does it matter what money you get? Why does it matter how much money is afforded you by your locality or by the state or the federal government? Well, it really matters because the money that you're afforded should be positively associated with student achievement. Every amount of money that we get should afford all of our children with the best possible opportunity for them. No matter what their needs are, whatever their interests are, we should be making certain that happens for them. we should see an increase in our on-time graduation rate because budgets are closely aligned with that. And we also know that by budgeting and using money in the right way, it can boost adult income. And I think when Ms. Benjamin was just speaking about Code RVA and allowing our young people to have that kind of opportunity, these young people do walk right out of that program and go right into a real living wage, and are already associated with lots of businesses. Same with Rowanti. And what we know is better educated individuals live longer, they're healthier than those, but they have less of an education, and their children are more likely to thrive. So that's why putting a budget together is so very important, and to make certain that when we're asking for monies, when we're deciding what our priorities are, that we're doing the right thing. So let's see if indeed how we're spending our money is making a difference. And I would just like to remind you about some of the accolades, I guess, that we've had over the past few years. We've had Title I distinguished schools, Southside and Sunnyside, both have been recognized in that area. Midway has been a National Blue Ribbon School. We were recognized by the Virginia School Board Association for our efforts in workforce readiness as the we were in first place for those efforts in the state. The chamber recognized us as a great place to work as a small business. And with the Virginia High School League, we were recognized as first in the state for our creative writing efforts, for our forensics team. You heard recently about the Scholastic Bowl and how our students are year after year continuing to excel there. So we really are, the results are as a direct result, the results are a direct indication that what we're doing is working. Here's some other indicators about the Dinwiddie difference. All of our schools are fully accredited. Back in 2015, 67% of our schools were fully accredited. We now have a 92% on-time graduation rate. In 2015, that number was 82%. 464 of our, we have 464 industry certifications were awarded this past year. There were 150 awarded in 2015. And our current dropout rate is at 3%, but back in 2015, that number was 18%. So the way we're spending our money, how we're budgeting our money, how we're using people, how we're planning, and strategically taking action is making a difference. What drives everything we do is in fact our mission and our goals, and you can see here these are the goals that will be part of our new strategic plan that we're working on, and our values of excellence, equity, and integrity. But the bottom line is we are focused on student success first and foremost, on engagement both of our community and our students, making certain that we're retaining and recruiting high-performing employees, and making certain that we are putting together a budget that's fiscally stable, and that everything we do goes back to teaching and learning. One of the things that I think people sometimes forget is that we're also a business. They think of us as they think of us as an educational institution, but they forget that we are indeed a business. Our budget is currently at $49.2 million. This is the budget that I'm presenting to you this evening. We have nearly 625 positions in our budget people that we work with, 22 buildings at about almost 1 million square feet that we're responsible for maintaining and operating. Our buses, about 90 buses, travel 1.8 million miles a year, over 507 square miles. We serve about 526,000 meals each year. We have about 6,500 computer devices. I think this past year we've taken on a lot more than we previously had, but we have to maintain those. And we definitely serve for about 4,100 students and their families, and that number continues to grow. So let's take a look at our students that we're serving. First and foremost, I want you to take a look at student enrollment over time, and you can see where enrollment was back in 2010 and where enrollment was in the 2019 and 20 school year. As we look at this, some of the things that kind of jump out at me are trends is that we always start the fall with a lot more kids than we end up with. And so that really speaks to the dropout issue that we were having early on. And you can see where that's kind of leveling out a little bit. We did take quite a big dip in 2017-18. But you can see where it's pretty, pretty even there in 2019 and 20. We don't see as many kids coming into kindergarten that had previously been coming into kindergarten. What's the reason for that? I don't know, but I think that is something that we need to study in our community to find out, you know, where are the kids going? Where are the 3 and 4-year-old students, or the young people? Is it about housing that's not available for young families here? But I think it's definitely, this is an area that we need to take a hard look at, because as you know, our enrollment does drive the money that we receive from the state. Here's a snapshot of our young people. As I said, there's about 4,100 students that we're working with right now. 16% of these students qualify for special education. That's well above the state and the national level. Usually it's somewhere around 12%. But we're serving, more and more of our young people are qualifying for special education. We are seeing a big jump in autism, as well as in students that are other health impaired. 2% of our young people speak English as a second language. We're seeing a huge spike, well, not a huge spike, but a jump in our Hispanic population. And at 52%, over half of our students qualify for free lunch, which means that they're living below the poverty level. That is something that's changed over the last 10 years or so. As I said, we have more speakers of other languages. And when you start to talk about having a larger ESL population, that's going to require additional teachers and support staff to be able to meet the needs of those young people. When I talk about special education population, and that is continuing to grow, we got to make certain that we can fulfill the IEP as it's written. I know in our autism classrooms, we made the decision to put additional hands in there, even though the state only allocates a teacher and a paraprofessional. We decided that we needed to have more people in there so students can receive the individual attention that they deserve. We also are seeing an emphasis on more complicated health conditions of our students, some of our students requiring more one-on-one assistance. And we're seeing another rise in mental health concerns on behalf of our students or on behalf of our families. And when that happens, we know that we need to have the specialists to assist our families with these trauma, or to assist our young people with that, the support that they need. So the bottom line with all this is that, you know, we're going to continue to serve students because that's just what we do. You know, the law tells us that we have to do this. So no matter who comes to our doors, we're going to serve them. And we're going to make certain that they are afforded the best opportunity they possibly can. But what we have got to realize is that as students come through and we learn more about them, we've got to be ready to respond to what their needs are, because one size doesn't fit all. So let's take a look at our workforce. As you can see, some of our leaders there, some of our teachers and bus drivers and custodial services there. The single greatest factor when it comes to student success, it matters who's in that classroom. And so we've got to be a school system that continues to recruit and retain the best. We are losing really good teachers to other professions. We're losing teachers to other professions just because the workload is so demanding, for lots of different reasons. But we've got to make certain that we are able to attract the best and the brightest here. We are certainly taking care of making certain that we are meeting the minimum staffing requirements. We've also got to make certain that we're differentiating that support based on what our students need. Right now, Virginia ranks about 34th in the country when it comes to teacher salary. The average annual teacher salary in Virginia is $51,000, which is about $9,200 below the national average. And when you look at other educational professionals, that really typically trails national averages as well as the private industry pay. So compensation is huge. We're seeing, even before COVID, we started seeing a big dip in the number of people even going to school to be a teacher. And so now that's just been compounded by what's happened over the last year. I'd like you to take a look at this graph. You've seen this every year. The dark black area there, that's where currently our starting salary is. Currently our starting salary is $44,500. And you can see where we are in Region 1, close to the bottom. I would like you to pay attention though to this left side. A family of four making less than $46,435 qualifies for free lunch. So if I have a teacher who is the breadwinner in the family, right? And whether it's a single parent or head of household who's making the $44,500 and I have 3 children or a spouse and 2 children, my family's gonna qualify for free lunch. You know, that just really, to me, seems very unacceptable. And I've seen, you know, in lots of different places where they've kind of taken teacher salary and just to put it in comparison, you know, professional basketball players make that amount with 1 basket. That's unbelievable when you think about the education and the work and all that goes into being a teacher. So as we think about what this budget was built on, basically 2 priorities. One has to do with the success of our students and making certain that we're accelerating learning, taking kids from where they are in this moment and helping to accelerate them to where they need to be, and then making certain that we're compensating the people that are caring for them. So as we began to think about what the needs of our students and staff are, we put together a process, which I know you're very familiar with, to develop this budget, with the goals and the calendar, gathering input. And so what I'm bringing to you tonight is for your review and consideration of the fiscal year 2022 budget. I want you to know that this budget is built on a projection of 4,085 students. Normally, Christy and I have to spend some time taking a look at trends over time, but what the State Department has asked us to do for this year is to take the number that they projected and build our budget based on that, even though we already have more than 4,085 students currently. So we did build the budget based on what their projections are at the state level. This is 165 less than last year's budget. Okay. And we built it based on the revenue that was identified in the second year of the governor's proposed biennium budget. And it's also built with the locality giving us transferring 33.5%, which is 1.5% more than they had provided us in fiscal year 20, which is 2 years ago. Some of our challenges in figuring out how to get to our priorities and figuring out where do we put the money was making certain that we can continue to meet the evolving needs of our staff and students, making certain that we can be competitive relative to salary, retaining and recruiting our staff, and also, you know, as our state sometimes can do is to provide mandates for us, but forget to provide us the funding to make sure that they happen. And we unfortunately see that more times than not. I also want to remind you that we work for the community, and our community does have expectations relative to our work. They expect our children to be transported safely to and from school. They expect a learning environment that's safe and supportive and nurturing. They expect the services to be based on their students' needs. And they expect qualified, outstanding teachers and educators, and they expect our buildings to be maintained. And so we have to consider that too. Some of the mandates and requirements that we must look at have to do with the standards of quality. This is the big one. And basically, the state constitution tells us, you know, here's what you're going to be afforded, and this is, you know, this is where the money is going to come from. So, for example, a standard of quality says that for our 7 schools, we are only funded for 6 principals. And so then we've got to decide as a school district, are we going to fund the 7th school or not, or how are we going to do that? So there's a lot of that in there, and I think I've shared with you before, like about kindergarten classrooms, and so there's a lot of that. The reality of what our needs are far outweigh what they afford us sometimes. Standards of accreditation and what comes along with that, standards of learning, and then being able to maintain effort as it relates to our federal grants. There's also other things that we must consider. We're part of a bigger system, and everything that goes on in our schools is tied to everything that goes on the outside of our schools. Our local attitudes, their values and traditions and beliefs. And so because we're an open system, we have to be mindful of that. We also have to be mindful that our demographics are changing, Every time a new cohort of kindergartners come in, they come in with a diverse set of needs. And so we've got to make certain that we're ready to provide a differentiated instruction, different kind of classes, et cetera. And I think one of the things we've learned in this past year is about virtual learning. You know, that, and I've heard so many of our young people talk about just having this whole experience with virtual learning, and it's not something that maybe we had really thought that we would build in as quickly as we're building it into our program, but it is something that our young people are going to need, and it's not going away. They're going to carry it with them as they go on beyond the school, our schools as well. The reality is that, you know, that there is a certain amount of funding that we get, but then the need is a lot greater than the funding. And that we're in a very competitive market when we talk about the teachers and drivers and services and materials with everything. And you think about where Dinwiddie County sits, a lot of our staff live in other surrounding areas. For example, they might live in Chesterfield or Richmond or Chester. Think about all the school systems they drive past to come here. So we have to maintain a competitive edge if we want to be able to keep the best and the brightest here in Dinwiddie County. We are required to be compliant with all the laws, which we do. But sometimes, you know, that those requirements don't match what the expectations or needs are. And I talked about a little bit about the staffing levels for the school. And much of the new funding that's been allocated at the state and federal level, it comes with a lot of strings attached, or we have to locally match the requirements. For example, position salaries. The governor just proposed in the budget, in his budget, he proposed a 2% bonus. Well, that's great, and it sounds really wonderful, but what he only proposed, the funding comes for the people that are in the standards of quality. So we have to come up with the 2% for everybody else. What you're gonna see though is that we didn't opt for the bonus and we instead opted for the raise. So let me just, here are the budget details of the fiscal year 2020. This just reminds you of the legality of it and what my duty is to prepare and present it. So the governor's budget proposed increased funding for Dinwiddie County by $409,000. There was a reduction of about $35,000 from driver's ed and E-rate funding. So that left us with about $350,000. Much of what this money in the governor's proposed budget was driven by compensation increases, and as I said, it was a bonus, not a raise, and one-time enrollment loss funding. What he put in there was so that school divisions could be held harmless because of the loss in enrollment that we've seen over the last year. So what I'm proposing is that the county increase funding from over the fiscal year 20 by $1.3 million. This is 33.5% of our operating budget. And as I said, it's 1.5% over fiscal year 20. Because remember, there was no increase last year. We had put together a very aggressive and budget that we were very proud of. And then March 13th hit. So we have not seen an increase since fiscal year 20. I'd like to show you where this money is going and how it's distributed amongst our students, because I know that that's very interesting to you. In the category of attendance and health, you can see based on some of our neighboring school districts, the state average is all the way over to your right. Dinwiddie is in the dark green. So when you think about money that we spend for attendance and health matters, you can see where Dinwiddie falls there in relation to neighboring school districts. And this is based on the 2020 annual school report. Administration, you can see on the second graph here, Dinwiddie once again in the green. It shows you about how much money per pupil that we spend on administration in relation to other school districts. They're much greater than ours. I think everyone is, with the exception of Chesterfield. And then you can see the state average there on the far right side. So you can see that we spend far little on administration costs per pupil. Operations and maintenance, you know, we have a lot of aging facilities, and I will be bringing that information to you in a later presentation. But you can see that we spend a great deal of money per pupil maintaining our buildings, our schools, and our offices. And a lot of that has to do with aging facilities. Okay. You can see our transportation costs per pupil. Dinwiddie is one of the highest there with the exception of Sussex. So we spend a lot of money per student to transport students to and from school and everywhere else because we do a great job transporting to athletic events and field trips and all kinds of things. And then finally, instruction. You can see the majority of the money that we spend, the greatest amount of money we spend has to do with instruction costs per student. And once again, it's there in the dark green, and the state is there on the far right-hand side. And it just gives you a sense of when you're talking about a budget of that amount of money, where it's going and how it's being allocated to the various categories. This gives you a sense of overall total cost per student. We're right at $11,000 per student. And you can see where our neighboring school districts are in relation to how much they spend per student. And then this next slide shows you the locality. The thing about this slide is it shows you that we really do have a school system, or excuse me, a county that is a very good partner. When you look at the amount of money that the locality is affording us, as far as the cost per student, you can see that they do greatly support our students. And then this just gives you a more detailed look at that amount. So you can look at all of the different school systems. And then over time, back in 2015, fiscal year 2015, the locality was affording us a little over $3,000 per student. And now the last time this was reported was $4,500 per student. So we have a needs-based budget. And what it does, it's funding the operations that we need for the 21-22 school year. It meets all the state requirements and guidelines. It helps meet the community expectations that they have, serves our diverse learning community. It's going to retain and recruit a highly quality workforce, and it's going to align our staffing with our current student and school needs. So as I said, what I'm asking the county to provide us would be a $16.5 million as opposed to the $15.1 million adopted in fiscal year 21. This is a change in $1.3 million. This graphic just shows you when you talk about the 33.5% the county transfer, you can see the state part of the budget is about 65.6%. Our federal funds are less than 1%, and other local funds also less than 1%. The interesting thing about this is that the better that we do, some of our funding from the State Department starts to decline, so then we have to lean on our locality to assist us with meeting the needs of our students. So it's almost like you're penalized a little bit for doing well, and then you have to go to the county to assist you. This is what the compensation looks like. What I'm proposing is that we raise the beginning salary of teachers to $45,500, which is an increase of $1,000, and also provide one step. This will afford teachers either a raise of 2.7% to 5.45%. This is a raise, not a bonus, that the governor had put inside his original proposed budget. This is at a cost of $753,997 to do that. All other employees would receive a 2% raise. That asterisk there says that there is a small group of employees, as you know, that there is, we are about to see a raise, we're about to raise the
Minimum wage.
Yes, and we have some employees that we need to start to move up for that reason. So this starts that phase one of that process for the bus aides. But all other employees would be a 2% raise. I will tell you that we are seeing as of late, as of last night and this morning, we heard the governor say now he's talking about a 5% raise, not a 2% bonus, which would mean certainly it would mean that we would generate more revenue, but it also would come at a cost to us that we would have to come up with the way to meet that on our end. So it sounds really good, but Christie's crunching numbers and, Christie's been crunching numbers all day today to see what that would cost us, if we were to move to a 5% for all employees. Instead of they always talk about a 5% average versus a flat 5%. So we talked about how we can make sure a 5% would happen for all employees. About $600,000 more dollars is what we'd have to come up with if he moves to a 5% raise for all employees. On top of the 1 point.
Well, it'd be an additional cost of
Yeah.
$600,000, but where there would be some corresponding revenue from the state. If
We'd
they're
have to
gonna
offset
tell us
that.
Yeah, so it wouldn't necessarily cost us $600,000.
Yeah, okay.
That would be the total cost of a 5% raise.
Yeah.
No, that would be the cost of above what.
Above the
we're saying
1.3.
right here.
Okay.
So above the 753,000.
Above
It would be 600,000 more.
above the
than that.
million right here.
Right.
It's above the million, so it'd be about 1,000,006. And then whatever additional revenue we get could be deducted from that. Because some of this has to do with, some of the 1.3 has to do with healthcare increase, I'm gonna show you here in a minute.
But have they, at the state lately, when was the last time they adjusted the, what they pay for, how many SOQ spots we have? Has that been stagnant for years, or are they gradually moving in any direction?
Well, I will say that, they have in the last couple of years done things like, I know, reading specialists has been inside of that, where they're now seeing the benefit of that, and we had already we put those in our schools early on, so that's been helpful. Counselors is another one that we had already started
Right.
working on, putting counselors in our schools, nurses in our schools 1-to-1, where we had already started doing that. So that is helpful for us, because then we'll start to receive funding for that, where we were absorbing that in
We're
our
already
local
doing it,
budget.
right, okay.
We were already doing those things.
They re-benchmark every biennium.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen any significant
Yeah.
change to SOQ position.
No. Just something, yeah. Yeah. So we do have some new positions inside of this budget, and when I say new positions, these are positions that weren't, normally what we do is when we're trying to figure out what our needs are, we take a look at where we have vacancies currently. So if I am, for example, I need a special education teacher at the high school, I would take a look at instruction to see where I have positions available. It might not be a teacher position, but it's something that's attached to the category of instruction that I can reclassify in a way to get the high school the teacher that they need, right? So these positions right here are not positions that we did that for. These are positions that are new to this operating budget. The first is 2 social workers. We currently have 2 social workers that work with 4,100 kids and their families. And I will tell you, they do a phenomenal job. But this past year, what we've learned is, especially in the areas of attendance and truancy, we need more hands on deck to assist us with that. And it does look like that we're going to continue with virtual learning for another year. And if that's the case, we need somebody that can work with our families around attendance and truancy. So we're asking for those positions to be inside the local budget. I don't foresee these positions, us growing out of these positions, because I think that what we're going to see over time is more of, you're going to see more mental health and well-being needs on behalf of our young people. We're seeing more of our young people coming to school, trauma and the like. And so we need trained people that can work with these young people and their families, in addition to the work counselors do. So we're asking for 2 social workers to assist us in this effort. The other is a school resource officer. We found out 2 months ago, or a month or so ago, we got a call that said there's no more funding for school resource officers. And, right. So we called to confirm that, and they said, yes, there's no more funding. You're not going to get funded for anymore. So, but then this past week, we got an email that says there's funding for school resource officers. I guess what's happening is some of the school systems are moving away from school resource officers. They're we have heard of that. So maybe that's what's freed up the funding, but we do plan to continue to take advantage of any funding that's available. This particular position is because the grant has run out. So instead of losing the position, we want to put it inside of the operating budget. So we're going to ask the county, we've been taking each other. So we pay for one and they pay for one and we pay for one. So we're going to ask them to pay for an additional school resource officer position so we don't lose the position. And then a director of innovation and development. Right now, this position, we do see this being a grant-funded position and that we will use CARES money. I am going to come later and talk to you about the CARES funding, but I just wanted to make certain to put this out to just speak to, what's happening right now with the virtual learning is that, as I said to you earlier, we have about 2,000 young people we're serving in the virtual arena. And we are also using virtual learning for a number of different areas. We worked with the principals and we decided we need somebody that can oversee that work and somebody that's been an administrator, has that experience, that can help to take us to the next level relative to virtual learning. So this person would assist us in doing that for the next couple of years. But as I said, that's a grant-funded position. It's not in this operating budget, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because it will be part of our budgeting process moving forward. Now, I just said to you that some positions we're trying to reclassify because, as you heard, our needs are really evolving and they're changing. So what we are doing is we're taking positions that we currently have that are attached to categorical areas and we're collapsing them to make positions that we definitely need in this moment in time. The first one being a coordinator of student services. As you know, that this past year we put kind of a freeze on a lot of positions because we weren't really certain what was going to happen with funding. We did have somebody that worked in this capacity as a director. We do realize the importance of teasing this part of that work out and allowing this person to oversee our counselors and the work that happens with our social workers and working directly with attaching students and their families with what they need, getting them to the right services. So we were able to use an existing position to create this position. Same with the coordinator of finance and human resources. We have, instead of bringing on another executive secretary, as you know, I shared with you previously about the audit that happened and some of the recommendations that came out of that audit with some of the work that we need to do, and that is to, in the area of finance especially, we need to be a little more specialized in that area. We also have a lot of work to do in the area of recruiting when we talk about human resources. So this person would work in between finance and human resources. It'd be kind of a shared service. Instead of having two executive secretaries, it's one person that works between the two offices to connect the work. Maintenance technician position is a licensed technician that would assist us at the middle school level. We had a couple of positions there. What happens is when we have a very small maintenance and operations staff, they're kind of pulled thin. So what we've learned that if we can hire people that have licenses like an HVAC or electricity, they can assist us with some of that those work orders on the ground, so to speak. So you don't have to wait for somebody from the maintenance department to come. They can take on some of the bigger kinds of projects. So this position would be at the middle school level. Teachers, this past year, we have really intentionally, we've kept a list of vacant teaching positions, and thankfully we were able to hold those teaching positions to be able to, at the elementary level, our goal is to keep our class sizes very small. We know that as kids continue to come back, that we are going to see some bigger gaps than we would normally see in an effort to be able to accelerate our students. So for example, instead of a school being a 1 to 23 school, K through 3, we are right now hoping to keep all of our class sizes around 1 to 20, K through 5. And that would afford us the opportunity to really work with kids, especially in the areas of reading and mathematics. And what that does is it allows us to keep these extra teaching positions at the school that we would normally not keep there. We have also put a new agriculture teacher at the high school level. I spoke to, we're going to have virtual teachers because we do think we will have virtual learning for another year. That is very likely. We've put additional special education teachers. In some cases, we've collapsed a lot of paraprofessional positions. Dr. Fields has, in an effort to make sure she has more special education teachers that can work directly with students and teachers. We are going to expand preschool for next year to afford one more class. And then an ELL teacher, as that population continues to grow, there'll be an additional EL teacher as well. Algebra readiness teacher, this will work primarily with grades 5 through 9 to make certain that we are, really everything is about getting kids ready for algebra, but make certain that everything that happens beforehand really is preparing our young people to be successful the first time in algebra, so there's not as much of a need for all those parts. We put a reading specialist at the high school, so we collapsed teaching position to put a reading specialist at the high school because we do have ninth graders that come into the high school that need targeted reading support. So in addition to the reading interventions that we have in place there, we also now have a teacher that's trained to work with those young people as well. Additional paraprofessionals for special education and preschool. And we also have on the list, and we're hoping it makes the cut, every one of our schools needs to have some type of administrative support because in addition to us seeing the needs of classroom teachers becoming very great, it also is becoming very great for school principals as well. And what we'd like to see is for us to have be able to put 3 11-month administrative interns at the elementary level. So everyone would have their own administrative support. It also affords us an opportunity to continue to grow our own, so to speak, and have that second string of folks ready to go when the time comes. But you know, when you're talking about even one of our smaller schools at a Sunnyside, you know, if you have 40 staff, that's 40 evaluations, that's, you know, and our principals have done a lot of teaching this past year. We just need additional supports in our schools. And right now, that's one of the SOQ positions that's not readily funded. I think at the high school and the middle school level, we're well over SOQ.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they think you need like one assistant principal or something.
Right.
But they obviously haven't had to work in any one of those places if they think you can do that. So that's what we have in there for right now. These are some other increases that are in the budget. Healthcare looks like it's going to be about 10% more again this year. We still got a lot of life going on, and the numbers are yet to come in, but that's what it's looking like right now. Contracted services, that has to do with Johnson Controls as well as our custodial services, an additional $100,000. We are seeing a slight increase in our regional schools tuition. Fortunately, we did meet with Rwanti on Monday, which is yesterday. They're going to level fund Rwanti, so that won't be there, but we are adding Maggie Walker, so I'm excited about that, another opportunity for our young people next year. And we plan to see an increase in fuel, the diesel this year, of about $50,000. So, bottom line is this, our projected revenue is $47.9 million. The budget I'm proposing is about $49.2 million, which leaves a deficit of $1.3 million. And the only place to go for that would be to look to our locality to assist us in those efforts. So let's take a closer look, just to give you an idea per category. I know, don't you love that picture? You have to take a closer look at the picture. I thought it was a little humor at the end of 70 slides or whatever it is. All right. So as you can see, once again, this is how we're spending the money. Instructional is about 70%. Technology is 5% of the budget. Maintenance is 13% of the budget. Transportation is 7%. Administration is 3%. And attendance and health is 2% of the budget. Okay, so what's next? Tonight is a work session just for you to hear this information. I am asking that we meet as, if we could come back together next Tuesday evening. It's not a regularly scheduled meeting, but we would like to come back and present to you the capital improvement plan as well as CARES funding before we go before the county on March the 9th. Normally we would have had time, but our schedule got a little messed up this month. So if we could come back next week, it would just be that one thing that we would need to cover. If anyone at home would like to provide any communication, there's a link to all the board members are they welcome your input and ideas that you have relative to the budget. Ms. Golson, you can email her, to Christy, myself, or just use the info line and we'll get that to the right person. I just would also just, as I close, just to remind you that I do believe that this is the budget that we need in this moment in time to take us to the next place that we need to be. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and Christy's got all the documentation. I just would like to thank Christy for her efforts in crunching numbers and pulling everything together also as well. So,
Dr. Weston?
yeah.
Could you please give me an example or refresh my memory? What is an example of administrative cost per pupil?
It could be, the administrator would be like administrator, or it could be like any of our positions here at the central office positions. Right? What else would be inside of it? Mainly it's that, it's mainly
Yeah.
Principals and,
principal,
Yeah.
no, not principal, it's their
No.
instruction. So it'd be like here at the central office. Yeah.
School board and office of the superintendent.
Mhm. Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's it?
Yes, ma'am.
Any
Any other
other
questions or
questions?
thoughts or?
Okay. There are no questions?
well, I just make a comment that, compensation, obviously, every year is the largest piece of our budget.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have neighboring schools that are asking for much bigger raises and compensation packages than we're asking for, it's concerning because of exactly what Dr. Weston said, that we have people who live elsewhere. So in order to have quality staff for our students, we have to stay in the game, else they'll be lured away. And so that is a big concern. Also, things have changed so much this year that we have to look at everything so different, and some of those changes are costing in different categories than we've had to provide before. So, the whole thing has to change just a little bit. I'm horrified that the state or someone's looking at not funding our SROs. That's just.
We were shocked too, when we got the call.
Yeah, because in my mind, it's a safety thing, and a relationship thing and that they've been good for us in Dinwiddie County, and so I'm hoping we can find ways to keep them in
We'll
the
take any
budget.
money that the other schools don't want, as far as that goes, yes.
Oh, yes, that would be nice.
Okay. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Weston.
Mhm. And would we be, as far as the meeting is that something you need to vote on, Bonnie, or because it's just a special meeting is what I would be asking the board, if we could have a special meeting next Tuesday at the same 4 o'clock, to just talk about capital improvement. Or we can talk about it just
I don't
sometime
need to
next
do
week
this since we're
before the
not voting.
9th, if we could talk, maybe Bonnie could poll you all to see what, because it would just be for that only, not like a formal meeting, but just for that purpose, to talk about capital improvement and for CARES, just so you have that awareness before you go to the county.
Do we have a date for the county?
The 9th at 6 o'clock is what we think, right? March
Well, it
9th,
was
which is our
6.
regular board meeting, so we would leave here and then have a
And go
meeting
there.
just like we did last time.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any citizen comments? Ms. Golson?
Maybe we have. No, I was just gonna ask if the student members had comments.
There are no citizen comments. Board member comments?
You want, Mr. Snap?
First and foremost, I just hope everybody stays safe and warm during this past storm. hopefully everybody's got the power on or will shortly have it on. That's definitely something we need. And you don't know how much you miss it till it's gone. So, I'm definitely glad to see we're making the right step into, back to normalcy. That's awesome news. And definitely, we need to, like Ms. Pittman said, we need to make sure we're competitive as a school. Good teachers, they may cost a little more money, but they're worth it.
Ms. Haney?
I agree. I know that, like Ms. Pittman said, we give raises, but then they give raises. And we're back where we started. And we need to try to somehow get up there so that we can be more competitive and, draw the good teachers or more teachers. But just want to thank everybody for, everything they did for us today. And like Mr. Sneff said, just please keep safe, keep warm. And, we're doing the best we can, and I know y'all are doing a great job. And we appreciate all the work that y'all are doing to try to get the budget for us and try to get the kids back in school.
Ms. Pittman?
Yes, I appreciate the gifts and cupcakes and blankets that you all are presenting to us. I feel like we should be presenting gifts to you instead of y'all presenting gifts to us, but we always appreciate being acknowledged. The second thing I wanted to highlight was the Scholastic Bowl team for the high school. They competed in the regional and placed first and are on their way to the state. And this year you couldn't go to the state unless you were first. Usually first or second in the region gets to go, but because of the pandemic, they're shortening everything up. But the Dinwiddie High School did host the regional, and it was a virtual experience, which made it very technical and very hard to host that. And it was a lot of work based for the technology departments to get that up and running. The sponsors of that are Gene Minitry and Andrew Throwbridge. So those students performed very well. They're very confident and very, very, very prepared. It's a big honor for us to be, this is the second year in a row we'll be representing Dinwiddie High School at the state for the Scholastic Bowl. And on the budget, I would like to say that, now is a very, very important time for us to do everything we can to compensate teachers, because this year has been so stressful and has been so rough. And if teachers have options, leaving education or going to other divisions, when things get stressful, the thought crosses your mind, I might as well go where I can make more money if it's going to be such a hard job to do. So it's very important for us to do everything we can to keep that compensation piece in there. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with everything everyone has said, and I especially agree with Ms. Pittman. We have good teachers, we have good staff, we have good employees in this county of Dinwiddie, and we need to do everything that we can to keep them. And I want to say thank you. Well, everybody's gone, and I want to say thank you too. But I want to thank everyone for thinking of us and our gifts. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We have a good, I like the presentation of the budget. I like keeping up with the surrounding localities. So now while we have that change in attitude, let's take that change in attitude and let's put some steps with it and see if we can't make it some action and do what we have to do to keep our good teachers by trying to get the money we need to give them the raise that they need. Thank everybody for what you do and continue to do. And now I think we're going to our most special representatives, Ms. Jamaica. And so glad to have you with us today, both of you. And it's such a good, pleasant addition to the board meeting.
Yeah. Okay. So today I wanted to talk about two different topics, one being mental health and second being the African American Studies class at the high school. And the first one I wanted to speak about is mental health. And like Dr. Weston said, it's very important, and there's increasing issues with mental health, especially within the school community. And a lot of students feel like their mental health is often overlooked or just not talked about enough and not taken seriously. And we just feel as if that our schools don't put in enough effort to make sure that we're all mentally stable, and we don't have all the resources to make sure that we're mentally stable. So I think that an emphasis on mental health, especially at the high school and middle school, is very important, because being in high school, we're teenagers, we go through things. Same thing with middle school and elementary school students. And it shouldn't be something that we're scared to talk about, or something that is just not talked about often, because it happens to a lot of people and it often gets the best of us. And the second thing that I wanted to speak about was the African American Studies class at the high school. I'm enrolled in that class for this semester, and a lot of students, including myself, feel like it should be more than just an elective. At the high school, the class is an elective, and we feel like it should be a regular history course just like any other. And it sucks that we have to go out of our way to learn more about Black history when it should already be included in our main history courses. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That is so wonderful. It's so good to have the students. Just one going to speak.
Claire's gonna speak.
Okay, all right. Claire.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I also want to congratulate the DHS Classic Bowl team for winning the Region 4 championship for their third year in a row, and wish them luck at state on March 13th. Marwin Field won the Region 4B forensic competition in poetry, and Zayana Smith came in third place, and they both are going to compete at super regionals for poetry. Also, since the last time that we all gathered, teachers have been getting vaccinated. A lot of teachers have been getting vaccinated. And also, seniors are now starting to get accepted into their colleges. So that's also really positive. A lot of kids have been posting their acceptance and starting to say where they're going to college, and it's just making everybody look forward to the future post-COVID.
Thank you. Thank you. Both of you have given us some very good reports today.
And
Because
can I make one quick comment?
Yes.
I know the seniors are getting, they're saying where they want to go to school. Make sure you all check the scholarships available and apply. Because a lot of scholarships don't get used. So apply for everything that's available for you.
Thank you. Dr. West.
Yes. I'd like to thank Jamaica and Claire. I think that, it's so refreshing to have them here on the board. And we are really enjoying working with them. They put out a survey they're putting together a student advisory council so they can start to advise the work that we're doing here at the central office. They had 39 students that expressed an interest in wanting to be a part of that work. They've already given us a list of things that they would like us to work on. So that's very exciting as well. And I just would like to thank you ladies for really taking the initiative. Well, we're going to meet again this week and to talk about our next steps. And I appreciate that a lot. Also received a survey from Ms. Bulis had put out a survey, I think, to students to ask like what's going on in the school, how you feeling, do you want to come back? And I thought as I read that survey, the survey was overwhelmingly young people want to come to school. And, and I looked up some of them because you could tell, they had their names on there, and some of them were virtual kids. And, I think sometimes we need to listen to young people, and I think this might be the moment in time to do that. But I appreciated her taking that effort to listen to young people about what it is that you want. Jamaica, we hear you about the courses. I know Dr. Gurley is already on that and his team. And so we hear you. We agree with you, and we hear what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. I would just also like to say that smart people can work anywhere. I've always believed that, and I do believe we have the best and the brightest here in the school system, and I think that you've got to take care of the people that you have. And I I think it's important, and one way you do that is by making certain that the compensation matches, what it is that they do and the value addedness of their work. And that's, for teachers as well as, all kinds of positions. I think sometimes, especially in a small school district, we, everyone has to carry a lot of load, and they have to wear a lot of different hats. And I think if, at this moment in time, if there's anything we can do to make certain that the compensation is there, I think this is the moment to really be an advocate for that, especially for teachers on the front lines with young people. And then two others, Dr. Gurley and I were talking this week, and not about you, but we were just talking about how grateful we were to work for a board that, because we have the opportunity to see other boards, and I was referencing the news story about the board out in California that wasn't quite doing the right thing. And we were just talking about, having the opportunity that we've had in our experiences to work with various boards, and that I want to just say in public that what people, who they see sitting up here in front of you are the same people that are sitting behind closed doors doing the work, and really do care about kids, really do care about teachers, really care about this community. And that makes it such a wonderful place to come to work every single day. And I hope we appreciate you every month, not just in February, but really do appreciate that, because you're always, always, always supportive. And Bonnie Golson, I don't know, I'm gonna tell you something, they broke the mold when they made that one. She is unbelievable, and we gave her a little something earlier, and what we wrote inside the card was that it takes a village to take care of this crew, and that's why we're so happy there's you. Oh, I love that. Because she really does keep us all straight and always sets us all up for success, and so we're very grateful for you, Bonnie.
Okay, that's it?
Yep.
I will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we adjourn. All, any nays? The meeting is adjourned.
Well,
I don't have blankets.
yeah.